Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the YouTube channel that's dedicated to the construction and development of the Lake Erie and North Shore Railroad. Welcome back. Today in episode 4, we're going to be looking at the Hamilton Yard construction and all the things that have taken place in the remodeling of the railroad on the lower level, which is now an engine facility and the Hamilton Yard. So I look forward to all of you joining me, and we'll talk about some interesting tips on applying glue and how to remove switches and install switches, and installing the joiners on the tracks properly. And we'll also talk about laying track. Okay, so it's all here, it's all exciting, and guess what? It's time for Railroad Soul!
Across the prairies to the sea, they laid the iron for the rails and we ride. They shared their lives, their hearts, and their pride. They had railway soul.
Wow, I love that Railroad Soul. You can tell, can't you? Anyway, this is a warning. There's a scary flashback here. This is how the layout looked before we started the Hamilton Yard installation. So this is the lower level of the layout, and so we're going to take you from this to this in this episode. It's exciting because we're going to talk about how to lay the track. We're going to talk about how to glue the track. We're going to give you some tips on gluing. We're going to give you tips on how to lay cork, the baseboard, how to lay and remove switches in an easy way, a whole bunch of stuff. So hopefully you stay with me, and let's get down to the train room and see what we have down there. I have all of the old track out. Okay, ooh, that was fun. What I did do though was I did manage to save all of the switches. Now obviously some of these switches, these two specifically, have to be modified. I have to take this part off, but I've done this for a few of the switches, so it's not that hard, and I'll show you when I do it. I'll video it so you can see how to do it if you have to do it. So actually this one has also already been taken apart. See the two screw holes. So what you still have to do is just clip these rails off. But yeah, so you clip these off, and then you clip this so that you can drill a hole in the center so you can use the tortoise machines. Now, you can use the tortoise machines out here, which is, you can just drill a hole out here, use the tortoise machines out here, but I've got all mine in the center, so I'm thinking, unless there's a reason, like a beam in the way or something, then, or a cross tie of the bench in the way, then I'm going to try and do them all in the center. Now look, I'll update you again. I'm going to try to start fitting this cork in here now, and then when that's done, we'll update you again, and we'll then go through all of the installation of the yard. So you can see everything that, all the mistakes I do, and hopefully some of the good stuff I do, and it will help you out. I'm also going to go through some of the books that I've used and things to design this new yard. It's here. That's the layout design. So I'm not going to be too long on this one. I just wanted to let you know that the track is up. Not too much demolition of the track, and I've saved the switches. Excellent. Okay, talk to you soon. Okay, so I have got this
got the track and the roadbed lifted up. And so what you'll see here is just the sponge that's underneath, the blue sponge. This is just some remnants of some of the, I put some sandpaper down to make the yard look gravelly, but in my brilliance, I thought that would be a good thing, but it turns out didn't look very realistic, so I just ripped that up too. So now we're on the base. I'm just going to level out this cork, and then we will put the new cork in, and then I'll, as you can see, I've started to lay out the yard track. Okay, but what I want to do is get this cork in. I will pull all this track up, and we'll paint that whole area of cork, the whole yard, and then we'll lay the track down. So I'll get back to you once I have the cork down, and maybe even once it's painted. I also have this area here, right in here, which was going to be a lake, but I'm going to shorten the lake and have my yard tracks passing over. So I'm gonna have to put in some more support here. So once that support's in and the cork's down, maybe I'll give you another update then. And then we will paint the cork and start laying the track for the yard. Excellent. Talk to you soon.
So I've pre-cut all of the cork that I'm using here now. And then I went and cleaned up the foam a little bit. So any place that were a huge chunk came out of the foam and left a little bit of a divot, I've now filled it in with just polyfill. And this really doesn't matter that much as far as how it looks. It just has to fill the hole so that when the cork goes over top, there's not a depression in the cork or a weakness in the cork. Now, I just thought I'd show you, this is the cork that I'm using. So it's kind of like a floor. It's supposed to be used for floor tiles, but you get a box like this. Now I get this in Australia. We have a hardware store chain called Bunnings, and so I got this at Bunnings. I was just kind of walking through one day and saw this on sale, so picked it up. It was like $10 Australian, and you get 5 sheets like this for $10. So each sheet's about $2. So I went and I priced it out with the other cork board, and it's actually a little bit cheaper to buy this, and I think you get a little bit more substantial roadbed, especially for a yard where you're just going to have it flat anyway. So I'm trying this. I don't know anybody out there who has maybe tried this before and there's a catastrophic reason why I shouldn't do this, let me know, but I'm going to give it a go. Now, so far, this stuff here that I've put down has gone down really well, and it's nice and smooth and flat, and it's very cushiony. It absorbs, it's not too cushiony, but it absorbs the sound. When I had the track down, I ran some cars over it, so I think it's going to work. I'll let you know, but just going to let this set up and dry. Then I'll glue down the rest of the cork, and then I've got to fill in this lake area here. So once I get that filled in and the cork down, I will come back and talk to you again. This cork I just cut with a knife, so it's pretty easy. You just slice it and then bend it where the cut is, and it just breaks off. So it's quite easy to use. This is the brand again, just a kind of floor, cork floor, I suppose. And so I'll update you again, hopefully in a few minutes. Okay, bye.
Okay, I just thought I'd do just a quick demonstration of how I'm laying this down. The first thing is, see I have gloves on. Highly recommend these gloves. You're going to get stuff all over your fingers and be peeling it off for the rest of the day. So you just get some cheap, disposable gloves. Get a box of them for, I don't know, 12 bucks or something. They're going to save you time. You're going to save your fingers. It's something I would highly recommend, using the glue. Now, this is the type of glue that I'm using, and it's just the Liquid Nails by Selleys, and you have to get the one that works on foam. Okay, so there are a couple different kinds. I mean, this is I just know it as the yellow one that works on foam. If you look on the list of things that it works on here, you want to make sure that it also says styrene foam. Okay, so that's the glue that I'm using. Now, what I do is I take the piece that I have fit, okay, I just flip it over, and now I know that that's the side that I have to put the glue on. And you just run a bunch of glue on this, and there's a little button on the glue distributor machine here. So when you click that button, it removes the tension, and then the glue stops running out the other end. Okay, just a little tip, because if you don't click that and then you set this down, you come back, there's glue all over the place. Okay, then I just take a paddle and I flatten this out. Now usually what I'll do is go around the ends first. I want to make sure that I get real close to all the sides. And then once I've done that, I just kind of level this out a bit. Okay, and then I just take my paddle, move it along, just making sure it's all nice and smooth. Now the thickness, you want it kind of so that you can just see through it. That's what I found works the best. If you have it too thin, it doesn't hold. If you have it too thick, all the glue mushes out all over the place. Now, if you have extra, so see I've got a bit extra on this one. Okay, just keep it on the paddle, because you're going to use it on the next one anyway. So, see I have this one already set up. I could just put it there, but I'm just going to set this over out of the way. And I'm going to bring this, just flip it over, slide it into place, make sure it all fits, and then just give it a few pushes and a little bit of rub, I suppose is the word, and just make sure that it's sits into place where you want it. Now later I'm going to put some weights on this, okay, but right now I just thought I'd show you how I'm laying the cork down. Okay, I'm sure there's better ways to do it. I just have done this cork quite a bit here, and I also used it a bit in the office, just so we can have some cork board to put up. And I'm pretty impressed with how it works. It's a pretty durable product, and it's nice size, so you get a good size piece. And then of course, when we have these little cracks in between, if they're important and they need to be filled, you can just fill them in with some polyfill or spackle or whatever you want to use. Okay, so I just thought I'd update you with how I'm doing this. Anybody have any suggestions to how you can do it better, just post them up, and I'll come back and update you once we have all this down and I have the other pond area fixed. Talk to you soon. Okay, quick update. Got the roadbed, or the cork board,
down for the yard. So that's all in and glued. Excellent. Now I've got the other piece, this sort of area here filled in. It's all nice and level. Excellent. Now a couple thoughts. Number one, yes, I did what I was warning you not to do. I glued the wrong side of one of the tiles. I got distracted, outguessed myself, outsmarted myself. I had a system, and then I glued the wrong side. So then I, cussed a bit and had to recut tiles with glue all over the place and everything. But anyway, it's done now. So this is the good, bad, and the ugly. Remember that, and you get everything. So I'm going to try and be honest with you. Now the next thing I was thinking about, there's going to be a turntable somewhere in here. And I just finished watching Rob Bennett's, if you don't know about this series, Rob and Stephen Bennett, Rob is the father, Stephen's the son. They've got this it's an absolute incredible series from when they first started their when they first started their model railroad, all the way up to, creating an absolutely fantastic railroad. They go through all of the stuff that has happened to them. I've watched the whole series, including the electronic part, which everybody was complaining about. But I just watched Rob install his turntable. Now, he chose to cut the plywood first and then put the cork down and cut it. Now, I thought long and hard about this, and I decided, okay, I'm going to put my cork down first and then cut it. Now, I think Rob probably knows a lot more than I do about this, but I don't know if I trust myself to carve out a smooth cork sort of surface for that turntable to sit into. Now, so what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to get a new blade for my jigsaw. I'm going to mark this out, and I'm going to cut it really, really slow. Just really slow, really take my time and see if I can get this hole to fit that turntable properly. Now, the other thing I wanted to just mention is, because we're talking about Rob and Steve Bennett's YouTube videos, is that one of the things you have to see, one of the videos you have to see that Rob did was he did a tour of Shorty Parker's layout. And I've watched this at least 10, 20 times, I don't know. And Shorty has just done an absolutely incredible job on his layout. And the detail is like unbelievable. And I think the videos were a few years ago, so I'm hoping Shorty's still with us. But so if anyone knows anything about Shorty, if you let me know, because I have a new saying now to myself because of Shorty, and that is when I'm doing something and I get that temptation just to cut that corner or slap it up a little bit quicker, I just step back and I say to myself, what would Shorty do? And you know what? Shorty pretty much always does the right thing. So it just resets my brain. So if you hear me say, what would Shorty do? I'm just thinking to myself, and it's a little shout out to Shorty, wherever he is. Hopefully he's still doing trains. But that's just something that I wanted to mention about Rob and Steve Bennett's video series. You just got to watch it. It's a little bit addictive, actually, because Rob is such an entertaining guy. So anyway, shout out to Rob, shout out to Shorty. I will now paint this, and we'll get back to you once all the paint is dried, and we'll start laying the track out. And we get to cut the turntable. Yes, indeed. That'll be exciting. Everybody can, hopefully it's gonna all work fine. Okay? Alrighty. Talk soon. Hello, welcome back. As you can see, been a little busy here. I've got some stuff laid out. we've got the baseboard painted, or the cork board painted. I didn't have enough of the paint that I used on the main line, but I mixed two sort of colors together and it came out okay. And I tried another technique where once I had the paint mixed, I just sort of threw some black on the top and then took a roller and rolled it, and I got these little blotches, see these black discolorations, which I thought would be interesting to have in the yard, sort of like areas where grease or oil has spilt. Now, it didn't come out a lot, but you can definitely see that there is some, different black areas there. Now, remember, this is just the base coat, and all of these lines and everything you see in between the tiles will all be filled in with ground cover, that kind of thing. Now, down here, this is it. This is the turntable. So this is the Walther's turntable. Now, this is the template they give you inside the kit, and some of these tracks have slipped off a little bit from where they're supposed to be. This one is supposed to be on 20, like that. But anyway, I've just laid these out, and what I want to show you is I've reconsidered where to put the roundhouse. Now, before, you'll remember the roundhouse was sort of over this way and all the other tracks were coming this way, and I just really thought about this, and I think it's going to be better this way. And then as you walk in, you're going to be able to see inside that roundhouse. And then over here, we're going to have the engine fueling facility, repair facility. Have some gas tanks in here. Now over here, you'll see the yard. I've just got it set out. It's just really rough. Okay. And what I decided to do, after many iterations, was I've been watching a lot of the actual real-life yard videos that are on the YouTube, and they seem to have a lot of intense switching at the beginning, and then nothing sort of as the yard progresses. And then, of course, in real life, these would all connect up again. But I don't have enough space for that, so I have to take some modelers leeway and just have this. Now, what I'm aiming for is to have these two tracks here, sort of the either arrival or destination tracks. So we're going to build trains on these tracks, and then these will be the classification yards over here. This will be connection shunting from one side to the other. Okay, now over here, let's see this track. We'll go all the way down into the roundhouse. Now this track here, I'm thinking we might have trains come in and then have the engine switch, and then we'll do this run around here and then pull the cars in to where they need to go. Now this is, ran the scenarios in my head a little bit, and I think it's going to be pretty good. Now, the areas on each side here and here, I was really had to control myself and not put tracks everywhere, because I want to have some areas for modeling some industry. So these will be yard side industries. We got to have some space somewhere to model some stuff. And then down at the end, remember, this is gonna, all these end tracks, they'll be cut off, because this is gonna be the start of the mountain scene. So there's gonna be a fairly sharp incline here on the escarpment. And I've just got all these cars sitting here because we need to put this backdrop up as soon as it comes, but not here yet. So we're still waiting. tracking it. It was, I think it was sent out on August 7th. Now it's September 10th, and I think it just left the United States, so it's on its way to Australia now. Hopefully on a plane and not a boat, but I don't know. So we'll see what happens. So this is the yard update. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start laying this track. I think I'm going to lay this part over here first, get that down, and just don't lay these two last pieces coming into the turntable, and then install the turntable, finish the installation on these tracks, and then start laying the switch machines and the feeder cables and all that kind of good stuff. So stay with me as we move forward on the yard. Now, I haven't decided if this is going to be the Burlington yard or the Hamilton yard or the Toronto yard yet, but it's going to be one of those. I'm sort of leaning towards Burlington, but because up here we have sort of the Detroit Windsor yard, and then over here is London with the engine factory, so that the where it builds the locomotives. And then we have a lot of different towns, country towns and things up here. And then this, of course, will be the mine. And this will be the interesting story with this mine now. They used to mine coal here. And then, as you know, coal started to fall off a little bit, but while they were mining the coal, they actually discovered gypsum in this mine. So they built a new facility up here, which hasn't been built yet, but we're planning it, to mine the gypsum, which then goes over here in this vicinity here, the gypsum plant where they make gyprock for all the building that's going on now. So it worked out good for the mining company, worked out good for the train, and it's going to work out good for the scenery, I hope. Okay, I'll update you when we do the next move, which will be to basically lay down this track, and I'll show you probably a couple segments on how we're laying the track down, how we're gluing it down, how we're running the feeders, how we're doing the switch machine setup, and then we'll start with the turntable, blah, blah, blah. So we're gonna, this will probably be a whole episode on its own, probably a couple episodes. And then I just got this styrofoam model replica just to size out the roundhouse. Okay, so stay tuned for the excitement that's about to come. Okay, bye-bye. Hi everybody, we're just continuing with the building of this yard, and I have just finished gluing down these tracks here and here. I've tested the engine on these tracks, everything is fine, everything works great. Now we're going to work on these tracks here. Now I've changed the layout again a little bit, and so you can see the yard, and obviously these 4 tracks over here have not been glued down yet. So I'm hopefully gonna just show you a video of how I do that, and perhaps that'll help you when you set up your stuff. But I also wanted to talk about, I've changed my mind on this area again. So I've changed the location of the turntable. I've made some mock-ups of some buildings that I'm going to put in here. This is obviously the roundhouse. This is an engine terminal, engine fixing terminal, mechanical terminal, and this is the gas tank that we're going to use to refuel the diesels. And then I thought I'd have
the gas tank here, and we'd have 2 diesel refilling tracks coming off the roundhouse. This track here is just not going to the roundhouse, but it is a track for, basically this is where we're gonna have the live and dead track switch for storage of engines, so that we can shut the engines off so that they're not always running, making a lot of racket if they have sound. It's a tip that I learned from Rob Bennett in his videos. So this is just a rough layout of how these tracks are going to sit, just to make sure that it is possible to hook them up to the roundhouse, or to the turntable, sorry, how I want to do it. Now I just wanted to also point out here, there seemed to be like a bump in the table so that the switch wasn't sitting level, so I've had to sand this. So I just used the Dremel tool to sand that down, and then I put a little bit of support under the switch to make sure that everything was level and stable. Okay, so that's just another tip for you, that if you need to, you can sand this under pad down, and that really made things a lot more stable here. Now I have other areas. There's an area here that I've marked that has to be sanded, and another area here that has to be sanded, and it's basically the switch over between the normal track bed and the new cork bed that I decided to use. So there is a slight height difference, but that's fine. We're just going to sand those down, and then I will come back and I'll show you how I glue down the track and line it up and stuff. So I'll be back in a second. Just let me get ready for this and get all the tools I need ready, and then we'll come back and show you how we do that. Okay, so I'm gonna just start at the very beginning steps. So the first thing we do is I've had these tracks laid out, and they're basically where I want them to go. So I'm going to just mark in between the ties, so straight down the middle of the ties with a marker, just a dot about every 5th tie in the middle. And this is just going to guide me when I put the glue down. And then once the glue is down, then I'm going to place the track back on. And that's when we line it up. So the glue I'm using will give us a little bit of time to move stuff around. So what I'm trying to do is just be as accurate as possible, putting this in the center all the way along. And then when you get to the end, just put a dot right at the very end so you know where to stop the glue. That's sliding a little bit. I haven't soldered these joints yet, but I will do that. And now we just make sure that the track's set up. I'm going to go back and just repeat that same process for all the tracks. So I'll do that and I'll come back. Okay, so you can see I have marked, I don't know how good you can see this, let me just get in there. But you can see that there are dots going along where the track is going to lay. Okay, and that is where I'm going to lay my bead of glue down. Okay. Now I've just moved those 2 tracks over, but I've also done the dots, you can see the dots in between the other tracks there. Okay, but I wanted to show you something as I'm dismantling the track, so I have a space to glue. I just wanted to show you this. This is another trick. I can't remember where I learned this from, but this is a really handy thing to remember. Now I'm not gluing my turnouts down just yet, or even tacking them down. I think I will nail them down when I'm ready, but I still have to do the preparation for the switch machines and everything. So I'm not gluing these down yet, but I am gluing down the tracks in between. Now, this results in a problem because you can't get the switch out, or you can't get the turnout out without sort of bending stuff and trying to get the tracks out from the rail joiners. So what a little trick I have learned is this: you just cut back the rails on the straight edge. So on the entry point of the turnout, you cut these back, and then you can just slide the rail joiners back, take the switch out, and pull it out from the connections on this end of the switch here. So this is a really, really good tip. So every time you put in a turnout, so I'll just go over to this turnout here. We'll see. Where am I here? There we go. So on this turnout, at the beginning of the turnout, I've removed a few extra rails so that I can just pull these joiners back and then pull the switch out. Now I'm gonna do this on this switch, but it's hard to do with one hand. So I'm just gonna put the camera down and I'll try to give a demonstration. Okay, so this is the switch that we want to take out. Right here, it's not on the screen very well. Let me just shift this a bit. Sorry about this. But you want to be able to see exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to move the rail joiners back, and that frees the switch. So I can just take that switch out, pull it out, and then when I put it back in, I just put the joiners back in, slide these rail joiners back on, never fails. Things don't go smooth on the camera, but anyway, you get the idea. Those will slide back on. So I'm just going to remove this. Okay, because I need to glue this piece down. Glue this piece down, but I've got to sand here first. Okay, so I'm going to sand this and then I'll come back. Okay, we're back. I just got my stuff together here. I've sanded that other place off and I've glued those down. That's why the weights are there. Now, just a couple tips. Before you start laying down the glue, especially if you've used this previously and it's dried up, and you've broken off the stuff, you have to make sure that all of the old glue has come off there, or it's going to leave little chunks as you're going along. It'll leave little chunks. So just make sure you totally clean off all that old glue before you start. Next, the gloves. Yes, we're doing brain surgery in the training room today, but these gloves, well, they'll save your hands, trust me. Hours and hours of picking glue off your fingers. As careful as you try to be, you will end up with glue on your fingers, trust me. Okay? Next thing I want to remind everybody of is make sure you double check that your rail joiners are attached appropriately, attached correctly, and that one rail isn't sitting out. Now I know that sounds like railroading 101, but it is so easy to assume that those rail joiners are in. Make sure you run your fingers over those rails before the glue sets. Okay, you'll save yourself hours of irritation. And ask me how I know that, because I've done it. Okay, and in fact, it just happened to me now when I was laying these. I thought I had the joiners in right, and then when I went back, I said, oh, one of them isn't in right. You just luckily saved yourself a lot of irritation by going back and checking. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to lay a bead, just a bead of glue down the dotted lines. Now, you want to have enough glue to hold the track down, but you really can't have too much glue that it comes up through the rails, and that will screw up your ballasting when you go to do that. Okay. All right, so we've got the glue down. Now I'm going to just take this little palette, little putty knife thing, and I'm just going to make sure we get all the way to the end. Now the first pass, all I'm going to do is flatten it out, making sure that we get good coverage where the track is going to be. Not really too worried about how it's all sitting just yet. And then I want to get right to the end. Okay, now I'm going to come back and start smoothing that out so that we get pretty consistent coverage all the way. And don't worry too much if you get some outside of where the track is going to lay, because that ballast is going to cover this and you're not going to see it. But what you will see is if you get the glue too thick and it comes in between the ties, and that we want to try and avoid, but we still want to get enough glue down to hold the track in place. So first pass, just kind of flattening it out. And just a reminder, I'm not gluing down my turnouts just yet, because I still have to do the preparation for the turnout controls. It's good. I'm going to take a little bit off this one and put in this one. Okay. Now the next tip is that when you take your track, try to get it as close as possible when you first set it in, because you don't want to be sliding it too much, because if you slide it, the glue will go onto the side of the rails. So now I've got this in, so I'm just gonna try and get that just about where I want it. We'll take the next one. Okay. So now those are roughly in place. Now we're gonna, well, these are at an increasing angle from this track so that I can get some scenery and stuff in there, but I want to make sure that when the tracks start to level out here, I have them spaced out appropriately. Now I'm just hooking on the outer track and bringing it in, and that's at 3 inches. 3 inches. 3 inches. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to step out and eyeball these. So I'm going down to the end of the table. Just giving them a quick eyeball, and I can see right away. Little tracks at the end are veering out a little bit. Okay, now I'm just gonna pause for 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I've just went and got a straight edge. This is a triangle ruler. And so now what I want to do is, now that I've got these sitting where I want the curve to be straight, I'm just going to go down and pull this track to the ruler so that it's straight. Okay, now I'm going to go eyeball again. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to bring in the ruler straight back to this one. Here, I'm going to just pull that in. You can see how that ruler separates off in some places. So now we just make sure that track is dead straight. Eyeball again. And I'm just going to pull this one over a bit more here. Good. No matter how good you think you are with the ruler and everything, the eyeballing never, it's the best way to do it. It never lets you down. Okay, now those are looking pretty good. From the point at which they are straightening out, they're doing really well. Now, the other thing you want to check now is to make sure that all the gaps are appropriate. So here I've got a gap in the rail. It's too big. I'm just going to grab my pliers. I'm just going to pull that rail down so that it's where it needs to be. Sorry about my shoulder. Pull that rail down. So now all the rail gaps are within tolerance. Back here, this is pretty good. This one's pretty good. So now all we have to do is get our weights, put them on. All the way along. And we just wait for that to dry. Okay, so hopefully that gave you some tips on how to lay track down. Couple of things just to remind you, make sure that the rail joiners are in the way they're supposed to be. Make sure you don't use too much glue because it'll come up through the ties and that's going to screw up your ballasting. Make sure that you eyeball several times. Make sure you have a straight edge that you can use to pull that track tight to the straight edge. And make sure that all the track, where the tracks come together, make sure that the gapping is correct. and you can just correct that by grabbing the track and pull, especially if you're using flex track. Okay, so that's the track laying tips.